Poor boy discovers he can vanish without a trace, but when he uses his power to spy on a mysterious billionaire woman, he uncovers a deadly secret that could change everything for both of them. Sometimes people just take a different route, just for fun. That's exactly one day Lucas on his way home from school. He wasn't trying to do anything special, just trying to dodge the crowd of kids trying to act cooler than they really were. You know, the usual, but then out of nowhere, he saw this narrow alley. Never noticed it before. It was quiet, like the world was hitting the mute button. Curiosity got the best of him, and he decided to check it out. The deeper he walked, the stranger it felt. The kind of chill you get when someone's watching you, but there was no one there. It was like he was the only person in the world. A weird feeling crept up his spine, and when he looked down, his hands were gone. Like, actually gone. He looked up, spun around, waved his arms like a maniac. Nothing. No hands, no legs, no shadow. Just empty air. At first, Lucas thought he was losing it. Maybe he was dreaming. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe he bumped his head on something. But nope, he was really invisible. So, obviously, he freaked out, bolted out of the alley like a bat out of hell. He ran straight into a bunch of people, but they didn't even flinch. They didn't look up. They didn't even know he was there. It was like he didn't exist. But then, that's when the fun started. For the next few days, he played with it. He figured out he could go invisible whenever he wanted. It was like flipping a switch. He would show up at school, vanish when the bell rang, and sneak into the teacher's lounge just to listen to their gossip. Heck, he even skipped class a few times. No one could see him, so it was like he was never even there. It wasn't just about skipping school, though. He'd sneak into stores, grab snacks from the shelves without anyone noticing. He'd dodge bullies by disappearing when they walked by, and sometimes he'd just wander around town invisible, exploring places kids like him weren't allowed to go. It was like unlocking a cheat code for life. But as all good things go, the fun didn't last forever. The more he used it, the more he felt, well, invisible. Even when he wasn't, he'd walk past people, and something weird started happening. There was this empty feeling, like he wasn't really there, like he could disappear completely, and no one would care. He started feeling disconnected from everything around him, like he wasn't part of the world anymore. That's when he started hanging around the rich neighborhood. Not to steal or anything weird like that, but because it fascinated him. The mansions were huge, the houses looked like something straight out of a movie, and he wondered what it'd be like to live in one of those places. One house, in particular, caught his attention. It had tall iron gates, a huge front lawn, and just looked important. People said it belonged to Evelyn Sinclair. She was a billionaire, but no one saw her much. And when they did, she was always alone. Cold, serious, like she had a million things on her mind. At first, Lucas didn't think much of it, but then curiosity kicked in. He had to know what was going on. There was just something about her house, her life, that pulled him in. And, well, when you're invisible, you do some pretty crazy stuff. So he started showing up at her mansion, not in a creepy way, more like a curiosity thing. Every day, he'd hang out by the gate, watching her. And sure enough, there she was, Evelyn Sinclair, walking around her garden. No phone, no security. Just her, surrounded by nothing but silence. She didn't seem happy. Her face was like stone, but her eyes looked tired. Like she hadn't had a good night's sleep in years. He knew he probably shouldn't be watching her, but it was hard not to. Like watching a fire, you just can't look away. He kept coming back, day after day, and each time she was alone. Sometimes she'd sit by the fountain, staring at the water, not doing anything. No music, no book, just staring. It was like she was waiting for something or someone. Lucas started to notice her routine. She'd walk around the same garden paths at the same time every day. But then, one night, everything changed. She left the house. Now, this was where things started to get interesting. Because when you're invisible, you can follow people without them knowing. And that's exactly what Lucas did. He followed her through the streets, across town, and into a part of the city he'd never been before. The kind of place billionaires don't just walk into. And there she was, Evelyn Sinclair, meeting up with two shady-looking guys in a dark alley. Lucas couldn't hear much, but the way the guys were acting, it was obvious this wasn't some casual meeting. One of them kept looking over his shoulder, and the other handed Evelyn a thick file. She flipped through it, nodded like she understood everything, and then just walked away like it was no big deal. Lucas's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a rich people drama. This was something bigger, something shady, something dangerous. And that's when it hit him. He'd seen something that wasn't supposed to be seen. And once you see something like that, well, you can't unsee it. At first, Lucas thought he was just being paranoid. I mean, he was a kid. What did he really know about dangerous deals and billionaire secret lives? But the more he followed her, the more it became clear. Something was off. This wasn't just some random late-night errand. Whatever Evelyn Sinclair was mixed up in, it was deeper, darker. And the deeper Lucas went, the more he realized he couldn't back out. Not anymore. He stopped going to school for a bit. Not because he didn't care about school, okay, maybe a little, but because he had to know more. Every time he followed her, he'd take notes, writing down the exact time she left, what she wore, who she met. It wasn't exactly normal behavior, but he couldn't help it. Something was happening, and it felt huge. The more he learned about Evelyn, the more messed up things got. She wasn't just some bored rich lady. No, she was powerful, really powerful. She had people working for her, people who looked like they could end anyone in their way. Suits for the business side, street thugs for the other side. And the things he overheard sounded like something straight out of a spy movie. Hidden money, people going missing, threats hanging in the air like smoke. One night, things got way too real. Lucas had been tracking Evelyn for weeks, writing down her every move. He knew her routine by heart. But that night, she went somewhere completely different. She pulled into an underground parking garage. Lucas followed her as usual. He ducked behind a car and stayed low. Evelyn was talking to a man, big guy, wearing dark shades, like he thought he was too cool for everyone. They were arguing. "We can't let him live," the guy said, voice low but serious. "He knows too much. He's dangerous. He has to be dealt with." Lucas's heart stopped. This was no joke. This wasn't some random argument over a parking spot. This was something real. The guy was talking about killing someone. And the worst part? Evelyn didn't seem shocked at all. Like she already knew what was going on. "Don't worry," she said, her voice calm and cold. "I've got it under control." Lucas was frozen, hiding behind the car, feeling like his entire world just got flipped upside down. Who was this guy they were talking about? Who were they planning to hurt? And why the heck was Evelyn involved? The worst part was that Lucas couldn't just ignore it. He knew too much now. He was in too deep. So he kept following. He had to know. And honestly, he was terrified. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, just kept tracking her. Every time she went somewhere, Lucas was there, lurking in the shadows. The more he watched, the more it became clear. Evelyn Sinclair wasn't just a rich, lonely woman. She was in the middle of something way more dangerous than Lucas could ever imagine. And the worst part? She seemed to be caught in it, too. Lucas started to feel like the whole world was closing in on him. He was just a kid. He didn't know how to handle this kind of thing. But he couldn't turn back. Not now. Not after everything he'd seen. He started hearing more. In hushed voices. In strange places. There were whispers about hidden money, secret deals, people disappearing without a trace. It was all getting darker, scarier. And every time Lucas tried to pull away, he felt like something was pulling him back in, like the universe had decided he was part of this mess now. The worst part was that Lucas was starting to feel like he was invisible again, even when people could see him. It was like he was slipping out of reality. And every time he saw Evelyn, it hit him. He wasn't just following her anymore. He was obsessed. He didn't just want to know her secrets. He wanted to help her. He couldn't explain it, but he felt like she was in danger, like there was something big coming, something even worse than what he'd already uncovered. And that's when things got really out of hand. The The next night, Lucas decided to do something he knew was crazy, something dangerous, something that could end his life. If it went wrong, he was going to confront Evelyn Sinclair, but he had to be smart about it. He couldn't just walk up to her and say, "Hey, I've been stalking you for weeks, and I know you're in danger." Nope, that would never fly. He had to use his power, and that's exactly what he did. He waited until the night was quiet. The streets are empty. Then he made his move. He stood outside her mansion, invisible, heart hammering in his chest. For a moment, he just stood there, thinking about all the things that could go wrong. What if she freaked out? What if the people she was working with came after him? What if? And then it happened. He let himself be seen. Evelyn spotted him instantly. Her eyes went wide. She stepped back, looking like she was ready to grab some weapon. Maybe pepper spray? A taser? Who knew what else she had hidden on her? "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "How did you get past security?" Lucas felt his heart race. He didn't know what to say, but he had to try. "I've been watching you," he said, voice shaking. "I know this sounds crazy, but someone's after you. I heard them talking. They're planning something. Something bad." She blinked at him. Confusion flashed across her face. Then suspicion. Then something else. Maybe fear? "Why should I believe you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Lucas took a deep breath. "Because I can do this." And with that, he vanished. Completely. Gone. Evelyn gasped. Then, slowly, she took a step back. Her face softened. "Okay, let's talk." And from that moment, things started to change. From that point on, everything changed. Lucas couldn't believe it. Just like that, Evelyn Sinclair was trusting him. A kid who could disappear. But the thing was, he knew it wasn't just about the invisibility. It was about the fact that he knew something that no one else knew, and that made him valuable to her. Every night, he'd show up at her mansion. Invisible, of course. It became their routine. He'd drop in, give her the latest updates, what he'd overheard, where her enemies were moving, who was getting close to her. He was like her ghost, always around, always watching, always listening. At first, Evelyn didn't say much. She just listened to him, her face unreadable. But after a few meetings, she started asking questions. What had he seen? What had he heard? What were her enemies planning? And slowly, as the days went by, she started trusting him more and more. Lucas kept his ear to the ground, doing his best to uncover every secret he could. He was like a spy now. Only, instead of being part of some fancy government mission, he was just a kid trying to save a woman who didn't even know him. But the deeper he dug, the more dangerous things got. The more he uncovered, the more it became clear. Evelyn wasn't just running from some shady business deal. She was being hunted. And Lucas was right in the middle of it. One night, while he was shadowing her, he overheard something that made his stomach drop. "They know," Evelyn said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They know I've been talking to him. We need to act fast." Her voice was cold, calculated. The fear in her eyes was gone now, replaced by something much darker, something fierce. Lucas stood there, invisible, listening in, his heart racing. She was talking about him. He was a problem. And that's when he realized it. Evelyn wasn't just in danger. So was he. The more he helped her, the more tangled he got in this web. She wasn't the only one being hunted. He was too. Whoever wanted her gone wanted him gone just as much. And when you're invisible, you don't always get to hide in plain sight. You start to feel like the world's a little bit smaller, a little bit darker. It wasn't just about running anymore. It wasn't just about dodging danger. Now Lucas had to fight. He had to fight for Evelyn. And somehow fight for himself. He started making plans. Real plans. The kind of plans that could take down people with way more power than he could ever imagine. He knew he couldn't do this alone. He had to bring Evelyn into it. She had to know everything. She had to be ready. But he also knew that the longer this went on, the more dangerous it got. One wrong move, and he could vanish, just like that. And that's when the plan really started to take shape. He couldn't just keep showing up at her mansion, dropping information, and hoping for the best. No, he needed something bigger, something bolder, a game changer. So, one night, Lucas pulled off his biggest trick yet. He didn't just show up invisible. This time, he made sure the whole world could see him. He made sure Evelyn saw him first. She was standing by the fountain again, like she always did. He waited until the moment was right, when she was deep in thought, when the security cameras were off, when the guards were looking the other way. And then, when she least expected it, he walked right up to her. "Evelyn," he said, his voice steady but loud enough for her to hear. She spun around, shock written all over her face. "What the hell are you doing here?" she hissed, her eyes narrowing. "I'm here to help you," Lucas said, his words blunt but honest. "I know who's coming for you, and I know how to stop them." Evelyn froze. For a moment, there was silence between them. Then she took a deep breath and nodded. "I don't have time for games," she said, voice low. "If you know what's going on, then it's time we start acting like it." That was all Lucas needed to hear. He started explaining the plan. Step by step, move by move, they were going to take down the people after her, all the way from the shadows to the people pulling the strings in the dark. He'd uncovered too much, and now it was time to use that knowledge. But there was a catch. The plan wouldn't work if Evelyn didn't trust him, if she didn't trust the kid who could vanish at will. So they made a deal, a dangerous one. Lucas would help her, but in return, she would trust him completely. He was the key to everything, and together, they'd take down whoever wanted them both gone. But Lucas knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was war, and whoever lost wasn't just going to lose. They were going to disappear. And if you're wondering what happened next, well, you're just going to have to stick around to find out. Because the story, it's just getting started. With the plan in place, things started moving fast. But the more they did, the more Lucas realized how deep the hole they were digging was. It wasn't just Evelyn at risk anymore. It was him. It was his entire life. And the closer they got to taking down the people after her, the more Lucas felt like he was slipping away from everything he knew. Every time he used his invisibility, he felt more disconnected, like the world was turning him into a ghost. He could slip into rooms, listening on secret conversations, and nobody would know. It was like he was in the shadows, always watching, never really part of the action. The more he helped Evelyn, the more he realized something. He wasn't just doing this to save her. He was doing it because he needed to. It was the only way to feel like he mattered. But things weren't getting any easier. The enemies were closing in, and they weren't playing nice. The more Lucas uncovered, the worse it got. There were whispers about a secret organization, one that had been operating in the shadows for years. They had eyes everywhere, from the highest offices to the most secretive underground places. They were connected to everything. And if Evelyn kept digging, they'd stop at nothing to make sure she stayed quiet. And that's when the real trouble started. Evelyn had been keeping a low profile, staying out of sight, but Lucas knew they couldn't hide forever. The people after her were relentless. So they started making moves, small ones at first, testing the waters, trying to figure out who was behind everything. But every move they made only led them to more questions, more dead ends, more secrets. Lucas could feel the danger closing in, but he couldn't back out now, not when he was this deep, not when he was finally starting to understand how everything worked. Evelyn needed him, and in a weird way, he needed her too. One night, after one of their meetings, Lucas was walking home alone, trying to clear his mind. He'd just given Evelyn another piece of the puzzle. He was so wrapped up in it all that he didn't even notice the car following him. At first, it was just a faint sound, engine idling in the distance. But soon it got closer and closer. Lucas turned down a side street, hoping to lose them, but the car followed. He could hear the tires screeching against the pavement, and the air felt thick with tension. He spun around and ducked into a narrow alley. He went invisible immediately, hoping they wouldn't see him. He pressed himself against the brick wall, holding his breath, hoping they would just pass by. But they didn't. The car slowed and stopped right in front of the alley. Two men stepped out, looking around. Their eyes scanned the street, moving past him, not even knowing he was there. Lucas's heart was pounding. He could hear the soft crunch of their boots on the gravel. It was like everything around him had slowed down, like time itself was holding its breath. The men stood there, talking in low voices. One of them pulled something out of his coat, a small, black folder. He handed it to the other man, who flipped it open and began reading. Lucas leaned in closer, his heart hammering in his chest. He had to know what was in that folder. He had to hear what they were saying. But he couldn't risk being seen. Not now. Not when it was this close. He focused all his energy, pushing himself further into shadows. His hands were clammy. His mind was racing. He had to make a choice. Should he move closer? Or was this too risky? And then, just when he thought the moment would pass, the man with the folder looked directly at the spot where Lucas was hiding. For a split second, it felt like the world stopped. Lucas froze. The man's eyes narrowed. For a heartbeat, he was sure the man could see him. But then, the guy turned back to his companion and said something that made Lucas's blood run cold. "Is this it? Is this the kid we're looking for?" The words hung in the air like a threat, a warning. Lucas's stomach twisted. It was like they knew. Somehow they knew. The two men started walking down the alley, and Lucas felt his heart race. They were coming closer. They were going to find him. He had to make a decision, and fast. But the decision came to him quickly. He didn't hesitate. He darted out of the alley, invisible again, and ran for his life. For the next few days, he didn't go near Evelyn. He couldn't. Not after what happened. Not after realizing just how close the danger was. The people after her, they weren't just trying to hide in the shadows anymore. They were coming after him. And if they found him, they would do more than just make him disappear. They'd make sure he stayed gone. Evelyn had to know. She had to understand just how deep the danger was. They had to move fast. There was no more time to waste. Lucas knew what he had to do. He wasn't just going to stay invisible and watch anymore. He was going to fight. And if that meant disappearing from everyone's life, then so be it. Because in the end, some things are worth disappearing for. Lucas knew what had to be done. He couldn't hide forever. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was part of something way bigger. And if he didn't act, if he didn't do something right now, everything he'd fought for would slip through his fingers. The danger was real. The people after Evelyn, they were closing in. And now they were after him too. It wasn't just about keeping secrets. It wasn't just about invisibility anymore. It was about survival. About making sure the world didn't forget them. He knew the odds were against him. But that wasn't going to stop him. He couldn't let them win. He couldn't let them take Evelyn or him down without a fight. But the real question was, could he pull it off? Could he really outsmart people who were always one step ahead? Or was he playing a game he was never meant to win? The plan was risky. There was no turning back now. As Lucas stood there, the weight of everything bearing down on him, he made a choice. He would fight. He had to. But the worst part? He didn't know if he would ever come back from it. He turned and disappeared into the night, ready to face whatever was waiting in the shadows. The story isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. You think Lucas is just going to disappear quietly? Think again.